Superbike racing, the fastest growing and single most exciting form of professional motorcycle racing in America. And no one has commanded as much intense interest in this sport as a 19-year-old boy from Shreveport, Louisiana, by the name of Frederick Burdett Spencer Jr., known to his millions of fans throughout the country as Fast Freddie. Daytona Beach, Florida, home of the world's most famous racetrack, the Daytona International Speedway, where every year in March, the fastest motorcycle racers on the professional circuit compete in the Bell Superbike 100, the most prestigious event in a form of motorcycle racing that is uniquely American, both in origin and in popularity. A sport that has captivated the imagination of American race fans and revitalized professional motorcycle racing. For the dynamic and aggressive young men who race superbikes, this sign says it all. Men like Roberto Pietri, number 88, 27 years old, from Caracas, Venezuela. And Mike Spencer, number 73, no relationship to Freddie, 25 years old, from Huntington Beach, California. But the man most of the 60,000 fans came to see is none other than number 19, Fast Freddie Spencer. Between 1967 and 1977, Freddie entered 550 amateur races, winning almost 90% of them. Since turning professional in 1978, Freddie has won almost 2 out of every 3 races he's entered, chalking up 2 national championships along the way. We mounted a microphone inside Freddie's helmet to gain some insight as to what he's thinking while putting his superbike through its paces.
When I'm out in practice, it's very important that I ride the bike as hard as I possibly can, because it's very important that the tire works the entire race, especially the last couple of laps, because at the end, if you're racing with somebody, you have to have that little extra to pull it out. The infield of Daytona is very flat and very deceiving. You can go up to the turns and brake much deeper, and that is very important on your corner speed. You have to maintain a high level of concentration through the turns, because being so flat, there's no room for error. Leaning off the bike the way that I do allows me to keep the bike more upright and allows me to get on the gas sooner and get a better drive off the turn. Coming down the back straightaway toward the chicane, it is very hard to judge when you should start braking. I'm on the brakes very late going into the chicane, but I end it and start accelerating before I switch from left back to right to get a good drive onto the banking. At 160 miles an hour, there is so much wind force against my head and neck, I have to keep my body as close to the tank as possible. Once you learn it, the banking is probably the easiest part of the course to ride. Most riders find it very difficult to go into turn 1. They get sucked in a lot faster than they can handle. It is very important that you're off the brakes before you lean into turn 1. That way you can use the power of the engine to drive you through the turn much faster.
Earlier today, Stuart Rowlands talked to Freddie about Daytona's famous 30-degree banking.
Well, it's really a lot steeper than I thought it was. Riding on it, you really can't tell.
You mean that you really don't feel that it's this steep as you come around? What would you be doing around this sort of area?
About this area, we'd be doing about 140 miles an hour.
Really? What would the bike be doing?
Well, about here, the speed, you would be bottoming out the suspension because of the G-forces.
Really?
What you try to do is you try to stay as high on the banking so that you can get a drive. It's like coming down a hill. You know, you don't want to drive up the bank, you want to drive down it. And then you're shifting through the gears. And about this point, the bike is starting to really push, into the banking, starting to bottom out the suspension, the G-forces, and pushing down on the gas tank. And then as you get toward the end of it, you start driving down off of it and get the maximum use out of the banking, because that's what it's for, is to help you pick up speed.
What can you see? Here we are, 140 miles an hour. You're getting faster and faster. What do you actually see on the bike?
Well, it really don't seem that fast. When the banking is so big that all you really see is just, you just kind of see into the banking. It seems like you're just driving around a big turn. It's not really that fast. Up here on the bowl itself, it's probably the easiest part of the racetrack. It's really easy. You would think it'd be a problem, especially as steep as it seems here, that it'd be hard to stay up on it. But like I say, it's really easy to ride.
150 miles an hour, you're relaxed, isn't it?
Really, it don't seem like you're going that fast.
Okay. There'll be 40 racers on the track with you today, and only 3 or 4 of you have any chance of winning. The others are known in motorcycle racing terms as backmarkers. They have no real hope of winning, but they still come out. Why do you think that is?
Because they love the sport. I can remember starting out in racing. I didn't win. In fact, the first race I raced, stopped in this one right-hand turn, 8 laps in a row, and put the chain back on my Briggs & Stratton mini bike. But I loved it because it was competition. And I think inside all of us, we all had this desire and need to win. All 36 of them, or how many others out there, when they show up at the race, they feel they can win, and that's what makes it so good.
And the Bell Superbike 100 is underway. 100 miles at speeds of over 150 miles an hour. Going out in front early is former national Superbike champion Wes Cooley. Running in second spot, Eddie Lawson, and running in third is Team Honda's Freddie Spencer. Into the infield, it's Wes Cooley and his teammate Graham Crosby of New Zealand now going into second spot. Running third, Eddie Lawson, and Freddie Spencer is dropped to fourth. Into turn 5. Now Freddie Spencer moves back up into third. It is still Cooley in front as they go up on the banking. The 30-degree Daytona banking, and out in front is Wes Cooley, Mission Viejo, California. Graham Crosby in second as they drop down to the back straightaway, heading toward the chicane. It is still Cooley at a speeds of 165 miles an hour. Crosby second, and right behind Crosby is fast Freddie Spencer. Freddie Spencer running third, keeping Cooley well in sight, running a very planned race, and his race strategy is to keep Cooley within range and then move up on him as the opportunity presents itself. Freddie makes a move on second place on the outside of the banking. Spencer has gone into second and is closing now on Cooley. Graham Crosby dropping to third. It is cool. Oh, look out. A rider in the infield on fire. A rider in the infield and smoke billowing out of the bike. Now Crosby goes in front. Freddie Spencer into second, and Cooley drops to third as they go up on the banking. Still Crosby from New Zealand out in front. Freddie Spencer running a very smart race in second, and Cooley trying to get around him. Another rider down in the infield. Cooley has moved to second behind Crosby. Freddie drops to third. Spencer said earlier he would maintain 2 minutes, 7-second laps, and that's exactly what he's doing as he goes into the lead. Freddie Spencer is out in front here at Daytona. Freddie Spencer breaking out of the infield and up on the banking, rocketing right up, almost kissing the wall, then using the momentum to drop down into the infield and pick up speed. An incredible display of riding talents. Well into the race now, and each rider must make one pit stop. By the rules, it's required for gas. And here is Mike Spencer, Freddie's teammate. Toward the gas stop, he's totally out of fuel. Freddie continues in the lead and is slated to make his pit stop next for fuel. Mike Spencer is pushed out back into the race with a full gas tank. And here comes Freddie Spencer in for a very fast pit stop. Each member of the pit crew has a specific job, and it must be done with surgical precision. Look out, Freddie Spencer's bike is backfired, and he's on fire. The bike is enveloped in flames. They bring out the fire extinguishers and manage to put out the fire and send Freddie Spencer back in the race. And what had happened, a little gas had been spilled from the fill cap, and the backfire ignited it. Freddie came back in, losing precious seconds and finishing third in the race. After the fire in the pits, most riders would have hung it up right there. But Freddie Spencer, having the resilience of a true professional, fought his way back up to third place. Midway through the season, the Superbike Tour comes to Loudon, New Hampshire. Spencer had done well here in the past, so expectations were high going into the race. But unlike Daytona, power isn't a major factor. The race is long and twisting and demands a great deal of riding skill and physical endurance. The practice sessions for Freddie and his teammates were run in excellent weather and were extremely encouraging. Freddie shaved several seconds off his previous lap record, and all systems were definitely go. That is, until the morning of the race, when the rain started.
You know, one thing about motorcycle racers and fans also is that we're kind of like the United States Post Office. We have to come out, rain, sleet, snow, or whatever the condition is. We have to race. In the dry, you know what the other person's going to do. You know how fast he can go at a particular racetrack. But when it's raining, some people adapt to it much quicker.
Nobody likes racing through raindrops that feel like a million bullets hitting you at 100 miles an hour. Under dry, normal conditions, the top riders are well aware of each other's abilities, stamina, and mental attitude. But when it rains, the game becomes who can adapt faster to slick pavement, puddles, and poor visibility. Concentration is critical for a winning performance in bad weather. When it comes right down to it, very few people know what to expect when the race starts.
What's it like racing in the rain?
It's very slow. No, actually, you just have to be a lot more careful. It's really not that more dangerous, but the racing, it's very slower pace, and it's you have to be very smooth with the throttle control and very, very light on the brakes.
So you're credited with the most amazing reflexes. You handle a bike at 180 miles an hour and ran probably some of the most dangerous courses in the world. How did you develop those?
Well, a lot of it is just practice. It's like tennis or golf or anything else. The more you practice, the more instinct it is than anything else. It's just your reactions become, greater and greater and greater. And there's other exercises I do. I even play tennis to improve my reflexes. Eye-to-hand coordination is so important. What it improves more than anything is your depth perception, like braking points. There's just a little, a few things that I do on the racetrack, like learning the racetrack, that, helps me at each track that I go to. I go out and I practice, each turn separately and just, like braking to see how deep you can go into the turn. But it's just, I have to credit most of it to practice.
Because have you ever scared yourself out there?
Most of the time it's somebody else, it's somebody moves in front of you or... Especially in the rain, you really have to be careful, because it's really easy to hit a puddle or something like that because that's one thing about riding in the rain. Another thing is that you have to concentrate so much more, watching the racetrack because of puddles and things like that you wouldn't have to worry about in the dry. And when you're, worrying about how you go past the rider, well, that takes away your concentration, so.
Today, you came off in turn 2. What happened?
Well, I was going into the right-hand turn, and I was passing a slow rider, and I got on the inside of the racetrack, too close to the inside of the turn, and I hit where the racetrack kind of ends. I kind of hit the front end, the rear end came around, and the front end went out from under me, and I fell down and just spun around the bike. I thought I could stop it, but the bike slid away from me. And then I got up and went over and picked it back up and got it started. And continued on, but I lost like 40 seconds, so I lost me the race. You have to look at it like, hey, there's tomorrow or there's next race. That's one good thing about racing. There's always next race.
The Superbike Tour consists of 8 races. And as Freddie was relating his problems at Loudon to race promoter Don Breimer, his crew was packing to leave for race number 5 in the Pocono Mountains. Prior to Pocono, Freddie had won hands down in Talladega, Alabama, setting a new lap record in the process. At Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, he set yet another lap record and had victory well within his grasp when suddenly his throttle jammed wide open, forcing him to lay the bike down at over 80 miles an hour. Mechanical difficulties had caused him to lose 2 out of the first 4 races on the Superbike Tour. Pocono was a pivotal race for both Freddie and his crew, a must-win situation. When Freddie passed Wes Cooley here on the back straightaway on the first lap, the situation was well in hand. This time, nothing would interfere with him attaining a new track record and an easy victory.
I always felt that a rider and mechanic relationship was 50-50. Some people would probably dispute that, you know, the rider's more important. But you can have the fastest bike in the world. If somebody can't ride it, they're not going to win. And you can be the best rider in the world and against good competition. If the bike's slow, you're not going to win. They're just as important as I am. The one thing about being a mechanic is that, number one, you don't get the glory. But the second thing is that when the green flag drops, you're on the sideline. You know, your body's not out there going around the racetrack at, 100+ miles an hour.
Freddie, it's difficult for those of us who don't race to understand what goes on the track. Could you explain in emotions that we could understand what it feels like out there?
Well, I have to say how I relate to it is basically 2 emotions. You know, I love the sport, and I guess the first time I won, it was almost like, the first time you'd fall in love. But the second is fear, because you fear the motorcycle and you fear fear losing. So love and fear is about the only 2 emotions.
How do you evaluate the risks versus the money?
If you really think about it, there's really not enough money to risk your life, But, what drives all racers is really the need to win, and to succeed. And there must be something that's born in us, to want to go out there and do it. But, you really don't look at it like, this much money for this much risk. The money comes, but the main thing, I guess, is that it's the drive to succeed.
The next race for Freddie was in Seattle, Washington. Weather and track conditions were perfect on race day, and everyone, including the starter, was up for a great event. The level of concentration among the true professionals is so intense that they are often off and running before the rest of the grid even realizes the race is starting. From the very beginning, though, Seattle was more than just a race. Seattle was a dogfight. Out of the gates, the race was dominated by Freddie, number 19, Eddie Lawson, 21, and the previous year's Superbike champion, Wes Cooley, number 34. The 3 rode so close together, you could throw a blanket over them, trading the lead back and forth, jockeying for position, and tearing up the track in an unbelievable display of determination and skill that had the crowd standing and screaming. Superbike racing at its very best. Into the 7th lap, Spencer and Lawson began to outpace even the hard-riding Wes Cooley. For on this day, the battle for first place was to be decided by numbers 19 and 21, and would continue until the last split second of the race.
race. You know, I lost by a half a wheel, but, you know, I rode the best I could. You can't really be disappointed when you've given 100%.
The first week of October brought the Superbike Tour back to Daytona for the finale of the racing season. It was in this event that Freddie so totally demonstrated his amazing skills on a motorcycle. Shortly after the start of the race, he created such an overwhelming lead. It seemed as if Freddie Spencer was the only one on the track. In fact, the only time he was even near the other riders was when he lapped him. After 3 years of professional racing and just shy of his 20th birthday, Fast Freddie Spencer has proven beyond any doubt he is the Superman of Superbike racing.
When I turned professional, I was the minimum age, 16. One of the times I really remember was the match races in 1980. I was 18 years old, and I was the youngest guy on the American team. It's a 3-race series in England. And I went over there, and the first day, I won both events, you know, both heats. And that feeling of being the youngest ever to do it, you know, has always thrilled me. A fear, though, that you got to watch out for is one of these days, there's going to be some young kid coming up that's 18 years old, and you're going to be the old man at 26, right? Or something like that. So, you know, I feel that, while I'm the youngest, I'm going to enjoy it.
Who do you win for, Freddie? When you get off the bike, who do you really want to tell?
To be quite honest, I win for my dad and my family and all the people back home, all the mechanics, everybody that